these two compadres and mean hombres can move through and then yell something like lift fire, in which case these two guys back here will stop shooting altogether, and these guys will continue their assault through, establish a limit of advance or LOA, and once that's established, these guys can come through all the way through and beyond, establish another LOA, and now you have a form of security.
I like this chair, actually.
It's very inviting.
Oh, gross. Hey, friends, welcome back. I am Jason, and everybody knows Bill here, right? Bill's a usual character on this channel, and today what I'd like to discuss with Bill, because he's much more knowledgeable about it than I am, is small unit tactics, or if you're a super cool, fast, low drag guy, you're going to say SUT.
Right, or SUT.
SUT, yeah. I'm not that guy, so I'm going to call it small unit tactics. Now, tell me, Bill, what is small unit tactics for people that maybe don't know what that means and never done any training? What does that mean?
To simplify it, if you had a fire team sized or squad sized group of dudes who were working
how many
together,
are we talking?
So a fire team is going to be 4, and then squad, depending on organization, is going to be between 8 and 13.
Okay.
So 2 or 3 fire teams.
Okay. How you can move and shoot, move, and communicate amongst a small group of individuals. What the real question that I want to get to, and the reason I wanted to make this video, is should the average citizen, should the average Joe like myself, that's not the high speed, low drag kind of guy, just a regular guy, should I be training small unit tactics, or is there something else that I should be investing my time in?
The answer is probably yes. But how do you approach it? Do you approach it in a rigid form from in either law enforcement or military perspective? Or do you just break it back down to those 3 basic things, being able to shoot, move, and communicate? If you look at any number of videos of content, especially on the law enforcement side here in the States, of engagements that end up being deadly against even the law enforcement side of the house, a lot of the symptomatic failures are a failure to communicate. So officers not communicating well as far as what they see. And I saw it as well as in the military, you are training maybe to clear a room, and an operator is not loudly communicating each and everything that they're seeing so that everybody has the situational awareness.
You think that's primarily due to a lack of communication or lack of training, or a combination?
A combination, yeah.
Okay.
Expectations are to hear one thing, and so if they hear something else, there's no crosstalk. I don't understand what you're saying because we're not speaking the same words or the same language. Same with, getting on a radio. People need to know how to communicate. So until you get to that point, you're going to have issues.
And so I've noticed in a very small amount of SUT that I have done that the communication gets easier, and it gets more effective. You don't have to say as much the more that you do it with that group of guys.
Right.
So the more you do it, let's say we were to train together, the less I would have to say to you to get the message through. Or you might even just be able to look at me, and I would know what you mean by that look, or something like that, or a quick nod or something like that. Because as you know, when things start getting chaotic, it gets really, really loud. And if you've ever done any live fire SUT type training, you'll realize really quickly that it's very challenging to hear what someone's saying.
Absolutely.
So it's not like I can just talk to you. I would have to scream at the top of my lungs, and even then, it's really difficult.
Well, and on that note too, like all of our training that we do, we wear hearing protection, right? And so we need to bear it in mind that odds are when that triggering event happens, you're not going to have
probably not going to have hearing protection. Right? Yeah,
so,
the electronic hearing protection is fantastic because you can hear people speak, but it muffles the gunshot. So that's fantastic, but you're not going to have that
so
unless
you got to dummy down what you're saying.
Yeah,
key words, key verbs, and all of the what's most important for somebody to understand what's happening and what they need to do to take action.
Right. Okay, so how much do we need to do? Like, how often do I need to do this, in your opinion? Like, how often should I be investing in small unit tactics training? Is it even... paint a picture for me why I would need to do it in the first place.
That's a great place.
Right? What scenario would I be moving with my pals, let's say 4 guys? maybe less. Maybe say 2, because I think some of the tactics can be transferred over to even just a couple people.
Absolutely.
What scenario would that be? Why would I need to do that?
Right.
Can you give me an example?
So if we get out of the escapist SHTF wet dream scenarios, because I think, ultimately, it's all about risk management, understanding what's probable to happen and what's the risk associated with that happening. Is it extremely probable for post-apocalyptic to happen in the next 4 months? No. If you hang out with folks, and what's more probable, especially depending on where you live, is to come across or to have experience with yourself of walking into a store that's getting held up.
Yeah.
Right? How are you going to communicate with something so basic? Or do you at all? Right?
Yeah. Do not engage.
Or you encounter somebody at a park who's acting erratically or even potentially going to be exercising deadly force. How do you communicate and work through these scenarios? I think, and even those are extremely non-probable.
Right.
Like, even the vast majority of law enforcement officers will never pull their pistol.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
That doesn't mean that they should know how or
they shouldn't be
have
training.
shut.
Right. Because they're much more likely to be involved in a situation like that than I am.
Right. What's the probability of you calling me and saying, "Hey, we're throwing down here, and I think one of us is going to kill each other"? Like, it's not going to happen.
I need
right?
you. Yeah. In today's society, as we are right now, that's not going to happen. Right. There's a lot of reasons why that's not going to happen. I mean, first things first, you'd call 911 if that was the situation, because mostly for legal reasons, not necessarily that I couldn't handle it myself.
Right.
It's that I would probably go to jail if I handled it myself.
Exactly. Right. I can handle it myself now.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Not that I couldn't, but I can't because I don't want to go to jail. So realistically, I always want to make things realistic. I mean, it's fun to talk about, like, survival scenarios and situations. We're picking locks and kicking down doors, and we're with our buddies, and
going through the back
we're
alleys.
flanking the bad guys. Like, I mean, it's really, I enjoy that stuff, and I like learning the stuff, and I think that it is, I think it's beneficial to have more tools in your tool belt. It's best to have a 12-foot ladder, and you only need 8 foot of it, than have an 8-foot ladder that you're standing on the very tip top of it and reaching for it, right? It's better to have more tools in your tool belt than you actually need, and more skills under your belt than what you actually need. That's kind of the way I feel about it. Maybe you'll never use these small unit tactics. Maybe you will one day.
Right.
Let's hope America doesn't get in. Let's hope America doesn't get in the situation where we are having to live like that.
Exactly.
And use the.
One of the things that would be beneficial, maybe for y'all, and certainly for anybody, is to go through that process. Get a whiteboard out and put down all of the possible scenarios that you could find yourself in, or that you're expecting to happen, whether it's big or small or whatever, and just start to battle plan through some of these things on paper. And then once you figure out which ones are the most probable, say, hey, these are the ones we should probably invest a little bit more time in. These other ones are super cool to think about, right? Yeah. But these other ones are probably a little bit more practical, right? And then
realistic.
And then actually go out and do the stuff.
Yeah.
And then get better at them.
I enjoy the training. Like, I enjoy the range days and stuff like that. Not as much as I used to. I guess I'm not over it, but it's not like exciting and cool anymore. It's kind of like work when I'm out doing stuff. Like, I'm training and I'm practicing. It's kind of like working out. Yeah. I don't really enjoy it. I know it's good for me, so I go do the things, but it's more of a maintenance kind of thing, and more of a, just staying sharp. Is it practical? Is it useful for people to learn small unit tactics? I think yes. And even if, like I was saying, like, I think even just a pair of small unit tactics, even if it's you and your wife, learning some basics, like how, if there's a confrontation, learning how to peel off to the side so you're not in the direct view of this person looking at you, and you could flank them in some form or fashion if necessary.
Or break contact.
Or, exactly. So I think those kind of real practical lessons can be taken away from it. And I think that's why we should learn them. I don't foresee in the near future, things could change very fast, but I don't foresee in the near future us roaming the streets in bands of our homies.
I don't think so. Yeah. And the hard truth of it is, I think it all begins, especially as a family. You know, you think about what to do in the event of a fire.
Sure.
Right? That is, your family is your most important small unit, right? Mm-hmm. Are we rehearsing or even talking about things like that? And the odds are, I think most families probably don't.
Right.
Just take it for granted.
Sure.
You know?
It hasn't happened yet.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
It's going to be all right.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. We'll figure it out when it comes. No, you won't. All right, guys, I think training small unit tactics, if you've never dabbled in it, you've never experienced it, first of all, get your individual skills dialed in first.
Boom.
Like, I think that is probably number one. Be safe with a firearm. Make sure you know how to operate it safely. Make sure that you can do that. And then learn how to run and move and still shoot effectively. That's not an easy thing to do. Most people very much overestimate their abilities when it comes to that. When you're breathing hard and sucking wind, very few people can still hit a target.
Right.
So I would suggest that, and then from there maybe graduate up to some small unit tactics and get some training from someone that actually knows what they're doing and don't just wing it. Yeah.
Say you're in a ranger file with your battle buddies and you're patrolling through the woods because, you know, it's post-apocalyptic time. As you're moving through, you begin to receive engagements. And I think this is one of the things where, you know, small unit tactics begins with how do we communicate? So we begin with those 3 Ds, right? Distance, direction, and description of what is engaging us and trying to inflict deadly force upon us. So as soon as that happens, we have our 3 Ds and everybody kind of gets online, right? As you're getting online and you're assessing and you're throwing down some dadgum suppressive fire, trying to take out the enemy, you got to decide and be able to communicate what you're going to do. If the numbers, all right, so we have a basic ratio of 3 to 1. So if during those 3 Ds, we determine that there's 4 of us, if there was more than one hostile person engaging us, it's time to break contact because we don't have the odds that we want. But let's say we had fire superiority, we meet those 3 to 1 odds. Now we have to communicate and know who's going to do what. And a lot of this is going to be based off of if it's a near ambush or a far ambush. In most cases around these woods, as you can see, it's probably going to be a near ambush. So with that being said, we'll assume that a couple dudes, we've already practiced and we rehearsed this, they're going to lay down suppressive fire towards the person that they are being engaged by. While our other battle buddies, they're going to break off and peel up to flank. Now, as soon as they're in a flanking position, they need to be able to communicate with the team that held back and was issuing suppressive fire that they need to shift fire. So at this point, you're going to still and continue to throw down some suppressive fire, but you're going to orient it off and away from your battle buddies, your teammates. The bad guys probably don't even know that you're not shooting at them anymore. But they do still hear all of that lead coming down range, and they hear the pops. And so it's going to help keep some heads down. And as soon as you have that shift, these 2 compadres and mean hombres can move through and then yell something like lift fire, in which case these 2 guys back here will stop shooting altogether and these guys will continue their assault through, establish a limit of advance or LOA, and once that's established, these guys can come through all the way through and beyond, establish another LOA, and now you have a form of security here. You go through and you make sure you understand that the threats are neutralized, you search for anything that's usable, and then you prepare to Charlie Mike and pop smoke.
It's that easy. It's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
No training necessary.
No training necessary.
Nothing could go wrong.
Nothing could go wrong.
I'd love to hear what you think about this in the comments section. Please let me know if you think small unit tactics is something that we should be doing, something we should be investing our time and energy into. Love to see what you think about that. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I cannot wait to see you on the next one.